My dream about the felon's heart? Let's look into that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting on the videos, sharing the videos, hyping the videos, promoting the videos on your own social media platforms. A huge, huge thank you. This is how the channel has grown, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Okay, so I had a dream about not the felon's heart, and not his physical heart, but actually just a news report. And the dream was quite vivid, which usually means something for me. Um, and it was a news reporter standing outside of the White House. It was a very busy scene, and the reporter said something to the effect of, they were planning on scheduling a pacemaker operation over the next weekend. Something along those lines. Something about planning a pacemaker operation. So we'll look into that. And then I want to look at the military speech and how that was perceived by the military. I also want to look at, will the military be loyal to the felon? And you know, I'm curious. There was a report on Wednesday, I think it was, that one of the Republicans said, well, the shutdown is going to last at least 3 days, which would put us past the Friday's job report. And of course, ADP, who reports private payroll jobs, reported a loss of tens of thousands of jobs. I can't remember. It was like 20,000, 30,000 job losses, something along those lines. So is this actually playing into the politics of it? And then I also kind of just want to revisit some of the images that I had of the funeral when the felon does go. Um, it does feel like there's quite a bit of time between his death and the funeral, like maybe even 3 weeks, maybe even a month. Um, I'm not sure if they're going to try to do some sort of crazy Abraham Lincoln whistle stop thing where they take the coffin through cities, or what's going on there, but I am curious about that. It does feel that the actual day that the funeral happens is quite cold. I could see people holding up signs, protesting, and just very generously sharing their thermoses of coffee or cocoa or tea or whatever warm drink that they had. Um, and I could also hear cheers and people, just having a good time. And this idea of, this isn't a sad day for America, this is a great day for America. And then at some point in time, I could hear the actress Jane Fonda um, say F the felon, F Vance too. So I'm not sure if this takes around the same time. I could hear that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we hear at least some really critical critiques from her. I don't know that those will be the exact words. So let's start with the military first. So how did the military receive this speech? I had a hard time watching it all. I'm not gonna lie. I watched some experts of it. Um, it was quite disturbing in its one, demand of loyalty, but two, in just its uncontrolled and insane lack of linearity. And I'm not saying everybody needs to talk linear, but this is beyond uh, your normal tangent topic. This is obviously some cognitive issues. So I think the military sees this as a crossroads moment, the two of wands. Um, In the Hermit, I think a lot of the high-ranking military view themselves as in a position where they might have to make decisions by themselves. If something crazy were to come down, I don't know that the military follows it. Uh, and we get temperance. I think everybody's just waiting for him to die, um, including the military leaders. I think there's a lot of disagreements amongst the rank and file on how to handle him. I don't know that the overall objective is um, that much debated. It does feel like the overall thing is that, we're going to do what's right for the country. Uh, we get judgment at the center. I just got a tickle in my throat, which I think is just kind of representing that the military really can't speak out against him. But that doesn't mean that they won't uphold the Constitution over his orders. So I think he said some things that are blatantly uh, not legal, and I don't think the military will follow through with it if he tries to act on it. He hasn't yet, but if he tries to, the Ace of Wands, again, they're just waiting for him to go. They want new leadership. We get the Empress card. I think the military is quite concerned about the felon's inconsistent statements with respect to Russia and Ukraine, and they don't even know which side of the he's supporting. I mean, it's kind of tricky. They do feel confined. They feel like they can't really say anything because they are the military and they're not supposed to be political. And I think a lot of the burden has fell onto some of these higher ranked generals to juggle some of the foreign policy stuff with respect to the military because Hegseth is just an ignorant buffoon. So it does feel like it's kind of a big turning point here. And I've said October is going to be a big turning point. So, I do think this is a crossroads. I think the military's passed their judgment and they're just trying to figure out how they're going to handle decision making should it come in a way that is not consistent with what's best for the country. Do you think they're concerned about the way he's handling Russia, Ukraine? And they've passed judgment and they're wanting to go back to this temperance energy, which of course doesn't happen till after death because temperance is the card after death. And uh, they felt quite isolated and alone and trapped in a sense because they're not able to say things. That doesn't mean that they're not having discussions amongst themselves or even with themselves. And they're all just waiting for the new leadership of the Ace of Wands. So I do think that the military is in a precarious situation. They just want a new beginning. They want, choices. They're ready for his complete and utter downfall, the Ten of Swords. And they're really ready for his death. They just are. They're ready for it. And the reason why is because that brings about a star card of hope. It brings about a sense of maybe we can get back to some sort of semblance of normal. So yeah, I think that's the way the military sees it. I don't think that means they're Democrats or not Republicans in some cases. I think it just means that they don't trust him. Um, I don't think they're loyal to anybody. I think that's the way it is. So that's the next question. Is the military loyal to him? I don't think we need a full spread on this. Just is the military loyal to him? No. They have anxiety because they don't want to be tested, but they're loyal to what's best for everybody with the Queen of Cups. And they're not going to go with the deceit, the deception, and the dishonesty. They're just not. So I think, every time we pull that star card of protection, in part, I think that's the courts, and in part, I think that's the military. Okay. So is the jobs report factoring into when the shutdown ends? I don't know why they would say there would be no jobs report on Friday, like emphasizing there'll be no jobs report on Friday. if if there's if the shutdown lasts past Friday. Any of us would have known that already, but I mean we might not have thought about it, but we would have found out. But this feels like it's a plan. Like this is a plan to try to bury this jobs report. Like, it's going to be bad. It's going to be probably 100,000 jobs lost would be my guess, and lots of revisions that'll add to that number. And in total, with the revision, I think it's going to be like 100,000 jobs lost, something like that. Um, so is the shutdown to cover up the jobs report? What do we need to know about the shutdown and the jobs report? Let's just ask about that. I think exactly that's what it is. It's like they have all these tools at their disposal to hide this jobs report. One of them is to shut down the government, to keep messages from coming forward, the Page of Pentacles, and to keep at bay the Queen of Wands, this discernment, this judging of the economy. I don't think it works, by the way. I don't think they're going to be able to bury it. We get the Four of Pentacles stability. They want things to be seen as economically stable. To them, a shutdown is less dangerous than what's actually going on in the economy. The effects of the tariffs, the effects on soybean prices, right? We saw that report of the Treasury Secretary trying to figure out how to respond to soybean prices falling. With the Hermit card, Republicans don't realize it, but they will be the only ones blamed for this that aren't by independents and Democrats, right? I mean, uh, the MAGA Republicans, of course, will blame the Democrats because they're not capable of thinking for themselves. But everything's going to come to light, the Sun card. And, the information comes, it just comes really slowly. The Knight of Pentacles is the slowest moving knight in the deck. And it's going to get here. The truth eventually comes out, the Ace of Swords, and the Democrats will know how to use the information once it comes out. Or Democratic line groups. So they're just trying to play with the timing of it all. And in reality, it's going to isolate them and make them look like they're manipulating things because that's what they're doing, and the Democrats will sell it that way. Uh, I mean, it'll come out, it'll take a while because of the shutdown. But in the end, people will use their discernment and their judgment of the Queen of Wands, and they'll make their decisions. They're trying to prevent the message coming forward about how stable the economy is, but it's not going to work because the truth is going to come out. And we're going to see it with clarity. So it's just not going to work. They can try it all they want. It's just not going to work. Okay, somebody cooked up this idea. Don't worry, there's some protection for the country, and there's something wrong with the felon's heart. We've talked about this, and there's a betrayal here too of the people that voted for him for economic reasons. And eventually we get back to this justice, which I think again it happens after he's gone. But yeah. So let's see here. Um, can you tell us about the, the felon's heart? Like, will he need a surgery in the future, or has he already had one? I always felt like they couldn't fix whatever's wrong with him. Like there was, they could do some stopgap measures, but there was no real fix for it. And he looks terrible. He just looks absolutely terrible. You can't tell us about the felon's heart. And I think there are other issues as well, but we're gonna get the truth. And I think that's what the dream was about. This news report. I'm like, well, they were planning on doing, putting in a pacemaker on such and such a day. Whether that's literal or just a metaphor for they were planning on doing something, I think is the point. Um, he's currently feeling quite sluggish. His heart isn't operating at at a very minimal capacity here. Um, and things are all kind of going in the same way here with the Eight of Wands. Justice is coming. Things are going to balance themselves out. The planet demands it, and that's what's going to happen. And he can't be a part of that. I mean, the Ace of Wands at the center of the reading is all about new leadership. This is the card that kind of feels like Vance in a way. It's kind of gender neutral in a weird way, which he kind of is. Have you ever seen him without a beard? I, I don't know. I think he's very confused. And we get the truth, the Ace of Swords. It's inevitable. Could it happen overseas? It feels that way. I don't know that it does, but when we get the Hanged Man, it's just a matter of time. I know I'm tired of the Hanged Man energy too, but it really is. It's just a matter of time. Uh, and the Five of Wands, there's too many things conflicting with each other for this to go on much longer. So we're going to get the truth after Vance takes over, and we'll find out exactly how much back and forth was going on about his health. It's inevitable that his heart does kick it. We don't get all the details till after Vance is president, and all things are pointing to the same thing, which is that he's quite ill. He doesn't feel well physically. Uh, Justice is coming for our karmic sense. It's just a matter of time with the Hanged Man that he and everybody else gets the truth. His truth, of course, will be an afterlife truth. And underneath, we have the Empress, illusion and delusion, and the Tower card. So, yeah, the structures in his heart feel like they're not holding up. Like, they can measure the inside of each of the chambers, and I don't think they're the right measurements. Like, I think they're smaller than they're supposed to be. The blood isn't pumping out in the same force that it should be. Okay. So just really quickly show us what does the day of his funeral look like? Do they try to is there a big delay between his death and the funeral? It just feels like there's a big delay for some reason. Like they can't figure out where to put him because they're worried about vandalism, and rightfully so, because I think a lot of people will love to vandalize his grave if it's not guarded 24 hours a day. Big enough for them. But we need to know about his funeral. Lots of celebrations, families coming together. There's a sense of relief. I'm not saying things get completely better. I'm just saying there's a sense of relief when he goes. That's what it feels like. There's a lightness to the air. It does feel like the funeral takes place a ways away from the death, and that it might be kind of cold that day. Um, at least in Washington, D.C. I think people will be more likely to give you their opinions after his death. I think a lot of people are scared to right now. Um, I think there'll be a lot of support for the people celebrating in the streets. I think there'll be people that voted for him celebrating in the streets. I think a lot of us are daydreaming about this day, which I think is true. Uh, the life cycle ends the world, but the world is also going to be celebrating too and looking at this as the conclusion. It's like his death is the start of the end, but the funeral is like the real conclusion of like Republicans realizing how angry everybody really is. Um, like I do think there's a delay. 2 weeks I think would be kind of typical for a setting president, but this feels a little bit longer than 2 weeks. Um, People feel at peace. The Queen of Swords here. Yeah, people just they feel like the country like suddenly has gained a few IQ points. It's like people are more critical of what's going on, and there's just a more logical approach to it. Like the cult is broke. There is no cult anymore. Um, yes, the things aren't over. There's still burdens that we're going to have to face with the Ten of Wands. That's for sure. And here he is in his own reading. So the people celebrate, as will the world, the end of his life cycle. Whose life cycle? His, the King of Pentacles. People become wiser and more thoughtful, like not just accepting things at face value, or not even face value, accepting things that are said. Uh, when his life cycle ends and the world is there, and I think there are some support here. I think people are more free to exchange ideas. I think people are daydreaming about this day with look at the Queen of Wands, the way she's looking, and the Two of Wands, the way she's looking. But we're also realistic that there's a lot of burdens still here, but we're going down the hill rather than up the hill, which I think is important. So I do think things improve quite a bit in the sense of predictability. It'll be a huge relief with the Nine of Pentacles and then the Six of Cups. It's just going to be a huge relief and really something we're going to tell children and grandchildren about. People will be asking if you're in your 20s now, 60 years from now, people are going to be asking you about the day that this happened. The Republicans will be quite defensive about the fact that he was super ill. The Seven of Wands followed by the Four of Swords. And we get the full card, this new beginning that happens. When's the new beginning happening? It happens right after his death. So these are all very positive cards from the perspective of he's ruining the world, which I think is fairly accurate. All right. Thank you for watching. I'll be back with another video soon.